Hi, welcome to my talk from my poster, Affordance Perception as Predicted by Trait Measures of Neurodevelopmental Disorders, an online stimulus response compatibility study. Reaction times are faster when responses to a viewed object handle are congruent to the response hand. For example, a left-oriented handle and the left-handed response. This is known as the affordance effect. Developmental coordination disorder, or DCD, is a neurodevelopmental disorder associated with sensory-motor deficits. This can often occur in tool use or object grasping. This disorder, similarly to dyslexia, is thought to relate to deficits in the dorsal vision for action stream, as opposed to disorders such as ADHD, which are thought to relate to deficits in the ventral vision for perception stream. We used Qualtrics online software to develop a novel online version of the Tucker and Ellis SRC paradigm to find out if there are differing affordance effects in those with low or high traits of DCD, dyslexia, and ADHD. Our study involved an experimental task where participants saw images of objects and had to make speeded responses by pressing Q with their left hand or P with their right hand to indicate whether the object was upright or inverted. The handle would either be orientated left or right, meaning that the hand used to correctly respond would be congruent or incongruent with the object handle orientation. To ensure the findings did involve affordances, we used a colour control task with the same key presses, however, they reacted instead to whether the object was red or green. Much lower level process which should not be affected by affordances. Participants also completed questionnaires for DCD, dyslexia and ADHD, and these scores were split into high and low trait groups. After data exclusions, we had a final sample size of 178. We found that in the experimental task there was an affordance effect, represented by significant interaction between handle orientation and response hand, with significantly faster RTs for congruent over incongruent trials. We can argue that this is due to affordances and not spatial compatibility, as there was no such effect found in the colour control task. When looking at the trait groups, ANOVA found that there was a significant interaction between condition and DCD, specifically that people with high traits of DCD had significantly faster RTs for congruent over incongruent trials. There was no such effect found for those with low traits of DCD or either of the ADHD and dyslexia groups. The colour control condition also showed no effects, again supporting affordances driving these findings instead of spatial compatibility effects. Overall, we managed to successfully replicate the SRC paradigm online, which could be useful in the possibility of having an easily distributable standardised affordance measure for a range of clinical populations. There was an increased affordance effect found in people with high traits of DCD. This looks to be driven by increased RTs and the incongruent trials in people with high traits of DCD compared to low, though the incongruent trial results were non-significant. The lack of effect in ADHD or dyslexia may suggest that affordance effects may be sensitive to DCD, which would produce interesting avenues for future study. Thank you for listening to my poster talk. I look forward to discussing it further.